This episode of Mini Tech Scroll is brought to you by Blackbird, a venture capital firm investing in Aussie and Kiwi startups from the very beginning. Blackbird invests in all kinds of technology, including Clove, whose founder Lauren chats with at the end of today's episode. But if you've got an idea and want to take it to the next level, check out Blackbird's Giants program. It's a free 8-week program offering one-on-one mentoring with top founders, operators, and investors. Applications are currently open and close September 7th, so if you're looking for support and mentoring, check out the link in our show notes and get your application in. Hey everyone, and welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday, and sometimes Fridays. My name is Annabelle, and I'm your Wednesday Mini Tech Scroll host, and also the deputy editor of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Tech Scroll, everyone. As you probably gathered from the top of the episode this week, this is the first week where Mini Tech Scroll is officially sponsored. So a big thank you to Blackbird for keeping the pod going. But before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to also thank everyone for signing up to our newsletter last week because we obviously did a big rebrand. Lauren has spoken about it, I have spoken about it, but I really ride for the newsletter. So thank you for all the new subscribers and for validating me. If you haven't signed up yet though, I don't know what you're waiting for. You should probably just go sign up now. My last thing to pester you about, though, is to please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and stick around to the end of the episode if you want to hear Lauren's interview with the founder of Clove. I find it really interesting, obviously, working in a small business to hear founders talk about their journey, even though I am not a founder myself. And there are obviously timestamps in the description like there are in every episode as for when that interview starts. Okay, let's get into the content for this week. So the first story I wanted to talk about is about how Elon Musk is trying to bring back Vine, ? Here at Mini Tech Scroll, I really try and limit how often I talk about Elon Musk because I don't really think you guys really want to hear me cover him every single week, but I definitely thought this story was worth mentioning because it feels like it really fits right in the intersection of internet culture and tech. I'm sure you guys all know what Vine is, and if you don't, I actually feel ancient, but Vine was really popular throughout the 2010s, and it was known for its 6-second clips that would play on loop. We actually did a deep dive into Vine's origins as a platform last year, and I remember finding out that the decision to make a Vine video 6 seconds long was actually strategic because it launched in 2012, which was a time where phone plans had really strict data limits. So that obviously helped offset those limits. And it's crazy to think of just how much times have changed since then. Anyway, Vine was definitely a cultural engine for its time. I'm sure so many of us can just remember off the top of our head our favorite Vines and how they go. And Vine even introduced us to the likes of MagCon and other iconic influencers, of course, like Quinn Blackwell, and maybe less beloved ones like David Dobrik. I will say though, I was never a MagCon girl. I was far too deep in the Belieber world to care about anything else, but the chokehold that MagCon had was crazy. I remember so many girls in my year at school were absolutely obsessed with them. So the power and success of Vine was pretty evident from the get-go, where Twitter acquired it in 2012, hence how Elon Musk is involved today. But its cultural relevance was short-lived, where the platform ended up closing completely in 2017. Much has been said about the downfall of Vine, where many commentators have put it down to a number of competing factors, including the lack of monetization strategies on the platform, Vine's kind of negative relationship with its creators, and a string of leadership changes that really left the company in shambles. While Vine didn't really have the cultural capital that it once had by the time it had closed, I definitely remember people were very upset about losing the videos and the archive and absolutely everything related to the platform. Anyway, over the past week or so, there have been reports that Elon Musk is trying to bring back Vine. This all started with a post on X where on August 3rd, Elon wrote, quote, "Grok Imagine is AI Vine." So Grok Imagine is X's new AI-powered text-to-video generator. It works like other video generators where you can type in a sentence or a scene that you would like to see animated into a video. I will say though, I have already seen questionable reports about this feature where TechCrunch reported that users can generate not safe for work videos on a so-called, quote, spicy mode, which I doubt will end well for anyone, especially with all the recent scandals around Grok spewing anti-Semitic and misogynistic rhetoric that I didn't even get into on Mini Tech Scroll because it was just so bad. Anyway, in the same tweet though, Elon added that, quote, By the way, we recently found the Vine video archive, thought it had been deleted, and we are working on restoring user access so you can post them if you want. Elon Musk has been toying with the idea of bringing back Vine since not long after he purchased Twitter, and he hasn't really come through yet, obviously. So unsurprisingly, many social media users are skeptical about X actually bringing back the platform and or its archive, especially if they are described in Grok as Vine's new counterpart. But say Vine does actually come back, I think this is quite an interesting prospect because these days we definitely don't have a need for Vine in the same ways we did back then. Obviously, TikTok, Reels, Shorts have essentially replaced what made Vine so special, the short form component, because that just wasn't really a thing back then. And I think this goes to show obviously how much the digital landscape has changed, and of course the content styles and humor that came with it. On top of this though, I do think it's kind of funny that X would be leaning into short form now. Short form video is definitely still popular, but long form has been having a renaissance as we have spoken about for years at this point. More on that later actually. But having said that, Elon's interest in short form video is just another example of the everything app, quote unquote, that he is trying to create with X. This plan was basically a strategy that Elon put forth in 2023. Me just calling him Elon, I know him one-on-one, but okay. He essentially intended for X to become an application that encompasses everything, replacing everything from YouTube, LinkedIn to TikTok. He was essentially setting out to mimic WeChat, which is China's all-inclusive media system. Obviously, he hasn't really achieved that yet, but he may be trying to, especially by introducing all these new features into the platform. But even though I still scroll on X and I still have my account along with Blue Sky, the app is just so far gone at this point. I don't know how, even if he made it an everything app, how it would have the same impact or reach as Twitter once did. But obviously, I guess Elon caters to a different audience now. Much more conservative, much more right-wing, so maybe it will become the quote-unquote everything app for that. My next story for today is a little bit more of an industry-based one, and that is that Amazon is gutting Wondery. So Wondery is a popular podcast studio. They have produced a lot of really successful and popular podcasts. Some examples include Scamfluencers and also various celebrity-hosted podcasts like the Travis Kelce one with his brother. Wondery was acquired by Amazon at the end of 2020 with a $300 million deal. But as reported by Bloomberg earlier this week, quote, Amazon.com Inc. is breaking up the operations of its Wondery podcast network as part of a broad reorganization of the business. Around 110 people will be losing their jobs, and existing podcasts under Wondery will become part of Amazon's Audible banner or the, quote, creator services team. Much of the commentary about the decision, at least what I've seen, is putting it down to the way that the podcasting industry has completely embraced video instead of just audio podcasts. With that being said, Ashley Carman and Lucas Shaw in the same Bloomberg article noted that this is a sign that Amazon's foray into podcasting may have not been as successful as they had hoped for. So I'll read you a quote from the article. The moves are an acknowledgement that Amazon's big push into podcasts hasn't worked out as planned. Despite signing some of the biggest names in the business, the online retailer is shifting strategies to compete better with platforms like Spotify Technology and Alphabet Inc.'s YouTube as podcasts shift to video formats from audio only. On top of this, the change also came after two of the biggest shows under Wondery, Morbid and Smartless, moved to SiriusXM. In a statement to The Verge, though, Amazon spokesperson Alex Zhou spoke to the shift towards video and essentially verified that this was a major reason behind Amazon's decision, at least the reason that they are putting forward. As it reads, quote, the podcast landscape has evolved significantly in the past few years, particularly with the rise of video-forward, creator-led content. These changes reflect the evolution and will streamline how Wondery integrates further into Amazon. So yeah, I think it's obvious that Amazon's decision regarding Wondery is just another example of how podcasting is going absolutely all in on video. This isn't really surprising because YouTube has become the most popular podcasting platform. It was reported earlier this year that 1 billion people are tuning into podcasts every month on YouTube. And according to Edison research from last year, 31% of weekly podcast listeners who are age 13 or older say that YouTube is the service they use the most to listen to podcasts. Obviously, with this shift towards video, we are also seeing the very definition of podcasting and what we expect from podcasting change and expand. Obviously, a lot of them are still formatted like this, what you are watching or listening to right now. I feel like I I'm breaking the fourth wall, but obviously a lot of them are someone just sitting down and talking to a camera or into a microphone. But we're also seeing the rise of vlogcasts, where hosts take their audiences around with them, much like a vlog. This is something that Alex L has leaned into with the relaunch of Hot Mess. And obviously that's also been a little bit of a hot topic this week with the Alex L and Alex Cooper beef, back and forth, fallout, whatever you want to call it, entering the zeitgeist once again, which I'm pretty sure Lauren covered on Monday's episode. But yeah, I definitely think the move towards video allows for a little bit more flexibility and creativity when it comes to the format of podcasting, although some people might argue that these vlogcasts aren't really podcasts at all. But to some degree, the embrace of video in the podcasting world, I do think can raise the barrier to entry a little bit, simply because I don't think everyone would want to be on camera. Okay, and my final story before the interview today was I did just want to share a quick update on a story we reported on earlier this year. So back in February, Reddit CEO Steve Huffman confirmed in a pre-recorded Q&A that Reddit will be implementing paywalls on certain subreddits at some point through 2025. This was actually first suggested a year prior, and it was described as a way for Reddit to diversify and increase its revenue, which is something that Reddit has definitely been doing with its foray into AI, which I've discussed before. But it appears that Reddit is taking a step back from this plan. In a post on the platform, Huffman, whose username is Spez, wrote, quote, "To stay focused on what matters most, we're shifting resources away from a few areas, such as work on the user economy. This includes what some have referred to as paid subreddits. It's still an opportunity we believe in, but right now we're all in on strengthening our core product, making Reddit the go-to place for search and accelerating international growth." This interest in search is definitely something I have noticed the platform leaning into recently. I was scrolling on Reddit the other day and I was reading through some of the comments on one thread, and I remember seeing that a couple of words in one of the comments had been hyperlinked, and when I clicked on it, it led to search results on Reddit for that term, and I'd never seen that before. So it's kind of reminding me of the search bar on TikTok and obviously the blue magnifying glass comments. So I can definitely see Reddit going in this direction. But yeah, I just wanted to share this quick story because obviously we reported on it before. And I think it's definitely positive news as far as access to information goes that they aren't paywalled, especially as we're going through this period that is quite disruptive in terms of search and browsers as the digital world transitions to AI. And I feel like people are obviously relying on Reddit more and more for information, whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, so before finishing up with this week's episode, we have Lauren's interview with Anna Guerrero, the founder of Clove. Once again, thank you to Blackbird.
Hi everyone, it's me. Okay, so I don't think Annabelle explained this yet, but for the next few months, you'll be getting interviews from me with other founders at the end of a few of the mini tech episodes that are sponsored by Blackbird. And today, we're launching this initiative with Anna Guerrero, former Canva exec turned founder of Clove, an app that takes the chaos out of cooking. In this interview, we chat about Anna's career, her app Clove, and the highs and lows of being a female founder. Reminder, click the link in the description if you have an idea that you want to take to the next level. Enjoy! Thank you so much, Anna, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I wanted to hear about your career journey before we get into what you're doing now, because that is so interesting to me, how people get to where they're launching their own business or they've found that kind of success.
Yes, totally. And so for me, it was quite unexpected. So I actually studied journalism and worked as a journalist for a very short period of time and fell into tech. So I was really lucky to find an awesome company called Canva very early on. There was about 15 people there. It was a very early stage startup and they needed someone to jump into marketing. So I hadn't done a lot of marketing, but I decided to give it a shot and ended up joining the company and staying for about 9 years, where I almost had every job I could think of in the company. So worked across marketing and growth and product, and ended up building out and leading out the marketplace program at Canva. So that was awesome. And then it took a bit of a break from tech after an incredible chapter there to dive into something that I love deeply, which is cooking. And then funnily enough, fell back into tech. So I have this theory that you really can't plan all of the great things that happen to you. And that was definitely true on the journey.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you went from scaling at Canva to cooking. Mm-hmm. Okay, tell me about that shift. Was it just you wanted to move into like a passion project? Did you feel a bit burnt out? Like, what was your mindset there?
Yep, definitely. So when I left Canva, I was the head of content and discovery. So ran all of the kind of creative marketplace programs that were part of the design product. And while I loved it, it was this huge role. I was running a massive team. I had almost 500 people and had just been, working on a problem space for a while and had started to kind of lose touch with something that I loved deeply, which was cooking. And I was really struggling to balance, doing this kind of incredible big tech job with kind of finding time for, a more creative side of my personality. And so I decided to take a bit of a break and I had no idea where I would end up and actually enrolled in culinary school, which was like a total pivot.
Yeah.
But I guess I love learning. I wanted a change of scene. I definitely can't relax, I guess, if I'm taking time off. So I took a bit of time off, went to culinary school and then ended up having a very unexpected year. Ended up getting a job in a Michelin star restaurant, which was just unbelievable.
Wow.
And then ended up kind of through that journey coming up with the idea for Clove. So I guess it was just a bit of a chance to kind of dive back into something that I wanted to explore more and go deeper into, but not knowing exactly what that would mean initially.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into Clove. Tell me, what is Clove for our listeners who aren't across it? What is Clove? How did you come up with the idea? Where are you at now?
Yep, totally. So Clove is a cooking app that helps you build a plan for the week based on recipes that you love. So our big goal is to really close the gap between inspiration, and there's so much great recipe and cooking inspiration out there, but actually taking that and making a plan for the week that you will cook. So everything that you need to kind of discover recipes or save recipes is in the platform. We've got our own creator marketplace, which is growing and is awesome. And then we've got all of this awesome tech that just helps you make sense of all that content and create a plan that is really right and perfect for your goals. And so in terms of how I came up with the idea, so as I mentioned, I didn't exactly know what I would do after Canva and spent this time kind of exploring the world of cooking and food and eventually reconnected with that love and decided that I wanted to share it with other people. But I had this moment, I remember, when I was cooking at the restaurant and it was this really beautiful, elegant restaurant in the Dolomites in Italy. And it had 7 tables. So all day we would kind of slave away and cook for these 7 tables that would have the most amazing experience. But I guess being in tech for so long and working on a product that was used by, hundreds of millions of people, I realized that cooking for 7 people a day would probably not scale.
Yeah.
And so really just wanted to figure out how I could bring that love to more people and really started thinking about what problems people actually have in their day-to-day and why cooking is so hard to fit into daily life. So our apps have been live for just over 3 months, so very early days. So when we were initially developing Clove, we spent the time getting the apps and the kind of core tech built, but also building our creator community. So one of the things that makes Clove different to other recipe and cooking apps is that everything that you need to cook is in one place. So it's not just a tool to save recipes and it's not just another media brand where you can discover recipes you love. It's actually a combination of both. So we launched the wrap. Maybe we need a wrap. We launched the app with 1,000 incredible recipes from over 40 creators.
That's cool.
And so that kind of program is growing now, and we've started to build out, I guess our early user base of home cooks, and we have thousands of people cooking on Clove. So yeah, it's really exciting to see those two worlds come together, and there's obviously a lot to do ahead of us.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so I talk pretty openly on the pod and with our audience about my trials and tribulations as a female founder. I am really interested to hear about your experience with the journey, the hardest things that you found, and some of the best things that you found.
Yeah, totally. Great question. So starting a business is incredibly challenging. And I think it's almost better to not know what you're getting yourself into. Otherwise, it can be daunting to start. But every day there are problems to solve. You're dealing with the unknown. You have to learn a new job, and it's just constant. At the same time, you're growing your team. You want things to be clear. You want to set the vision. And so you're just juggling a lot, and it can feel like a lot. But it also means that when you do have a win or you get something across the line, it is 100% you and your team.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the most rewarding things. So so it's definitely been challenging. And I think what was interesting for me is, I was so fortunate to learn so much at Canva, growing it from a small startup to an amazing global company. But when I started Clove, there was still so much to learn. So I think it's really important to remember that you are always learning. And that's almost one of the best skills you can develop, is not just like the kind of experience in the resume, but actually the ability to, be curious, learn, and just throw yourself into challenges and I guess figure out how to navigate that and just stay focused on the vision.
Yeah, one of the best pieces of advice that I heard last year when I first became a solo founder and I was in the thick of it. Like I was in the trenches. So tough. And I heard somebody on a podcast say, you have to fall in love with problem solving.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just like unlocked something in my brain. Okay, so is there anything that you wish you knew or had done prior to launching your brand?
Yeah, such a great question.
I'm sure you wish you knew a lot of things, but in terms of things that you feel like you actually actions you could have taken, but you didn't.
I guess launching a new brand is such a big challenge, and maybe it can actually feel like, there is a right path to do that. But maybe one thing that was surprising about it is that a brand actually evolves from lots of small decisions and lots of small moments. So, it's not just one campaign. It's definitely not your logo or your brand color, but it's, how you show up, how you sound, how you make your customers feel. And so I think that, at the beginning of Clove, I was really, I had this clear vision in my head, and I really wanted the first impression to be right. But after a while, I realized that it's just these constant first impressions, and your brand is evolving and you're evolving. So I think it's less important to just get it right or to have one set of experience that you can apply to it, but just to keep showing up and to actually just not wait. Like the sooner you can get something out there, the sooner you'll learn.
Yeah, and you can constantly evolve. Like that is something I was very rigid in my early days. Like, no, we are a .com, a digital publisher. Like I was a writer. I was very passionate about our website and the written word. And, I really had to just break out of that a couple years in and be like, I need to be flexible. Like I need to be able to constantly change and evolve and go with the flow. Otherwise this will die. Like the industry changes so fast.
Yeah, because you also learn what your customers want, right?
Yeah.
And so the most important thing is to just have those feedback channels and to really know who you're building for, and to make sure that you are solving a problem for them. So it's constant learning.
Yeah. Speaking of solving problems, what do you see, I guess, sets Clove apart from other cooking apps?
Yeah, totally. So cooking is such a complex process, and there's so many problems to solve. So there are so many great apps out there. But generally they focus on one part of the process of cooking. So, you've got amazing kind of brands like New York Times Cooking that has incredible recipes that are very trusted. You've got apps that will help you to organize your recipes. And there are so many different solutions. There's meal planning, there's nutrition apps, there's all these different things. And so what we're really trying to do with Clove is to just simplify all the noise and bring everything you need into one really beautifully simple and intuitive platform. So all the way from saving a recipe from TikTok or Instagram to discovering a new creator, to generating a shopping list, making a meal plan, and actually, sharing that meal plan with someone in your household as well. Everything you need is streamlined. So really being a platform for other brands and different types of customers to plug into as well. Just be there for the kind of whole journey.
Yeah, that's cool. It sounds very Gen Z. I think our audience would love it. Do you have any advice for aspiring female founders? Our audience are largely young women, like late teens, early 20s. What advice would you give them? Or just career advice in general?
Yeah, great question. So I think one of the things that is the most daunting about starting something new, or maybe just big challenges in life, is a fear of the unknown. And, there are less examples of awesome female founders out there that are doing things that you can point to and that you can relate to. But they are there. And I think the world of startups is so amazing, and you learn so much. And if you're the kind of person that loves it and throws yourself into it, it can just take you to so many places. So I guess my advice would be to just get into it. It doesn't matter what your first role is, or it doesn't matter where you end up, but just get started. Like when I came to, I'm from Perth, and I moved to Sydney for this really, I don't know if I can say, like, a really terrible job.
Yeah.
I was reading the news overnight. So I was doing the graveyard shift of news on weekends. But if I wasn't there, then I wouldn't have taken my second job, which was in the same neighborhood as Canva. I wouldn't have ended up at Canva, and then I wouldn't have ended up here. So I think you just really need to get started, find people you can learn from. I've always been really obsessed with finding smart people to work with and to learn from. And just kind of slowly start to chip away at that unknown, and really kind of start to make sense of it. And I think once you get stuck in, you realize that, like, you can do it and you can figure it out, and all problems can be solved.
Yeah, hopefully. Yes. Yeah. No, I always say too, like, because most of my team are Gen Z, and they're always like, I don't know what I want to do, and they'll ask me for advice, and I'm like, I still have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't
find
know.
out.
No, like, you just try different things. I had so many different lives in my 20s.
Totally.
And you won't know what you do like, and you won't know what you don't like unless you just try different things. Yeah. So to end off, can you tell us a little bit about Clove's vision for the next few years? What's next for you guys now that you're out of beta?
Yep, definitely. So we are really committed to helping more people get in the kitchen and cook. So there's two parts of that. So one is finding the time when you're really busy. So cooking can feel like it's just a hobby, or it's like a passion project, but it's not. It's also a job, and it's something that we all need to do every day. So finding the time and building the confidence. So really kind of just making it something that feels approachable and feels, I guess, like it can be a really great part of everyday life, and doesn't have to just be this like one-off thing that happens on a weekend or every now and then. So finding, I guess, just all the ways that we can help do that, removing the friction that keeps people out of the kitchen, and also really, I guess, eventually helping people to develop that love of cooking and bring it into their lives.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with
Lauren.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Well, that is everything for Mini Tech Scroll today. I hope you guys enjoyed the stories and, of course, the interview. I will be back for another episode of Mini Tech Scroll next week, and Lauren will speak to you guys tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Bye.